We're back to the Neil Haley Show and then also the Media Giant Effect. It's so great to work with Suzanne Evans speakers. They're just phenomenal people, and I've been interviewing them the last couple of days, and I swear it's therapy for me. It's therapeutic because their expertise and knowledge. And I learned something, and I maybe need to go back through because I never do listen to my interviews. I've done over 9,000 plus. I cringe listening to myself. I don't know why that is, or I don't have time because I've done so much content. But my guest today is going to tackle a topic that every entrepreneur, business owner, person, anyone in the world deals with, and that's difficult people, or which I call adversarial people. Leslie Austin. Leslie, thanks for stopping by. And
Sure.
So how do we deal with difficult people?
Yeah. The thing is, they're not always adversarial because they are not actually paying attention to you. I call them impossible people. And the common word everybody's misusing these days is narcissist. And what I want to say is, you're not going to change the other person. So you've got to learn what their patterns are, what motivates them, and the right strategies to respond. So they will change their behavior, but it's because you're different. You're not going to get somebody else to change. It's not because they're not tuning into you. They're not aware. They're totally involved in their own world. They only view you as an extension of themselves and what they want. And whether you like it or not, that's the truth.
Okay, so do we stay away from them if we don't have to be around them?
Well, there's a spectrum of how impossible people are. I mean, a lot of people, my cousin always had to be right. She drove me crazy, even when she was wrong. And that can be irritating, it can be infuriating, or it can really hurt your relationships, your marriage, your partnerships, your business, if you're a business person. It can be very destructive. So the strategy is to understand that what they're really after there is that secretly they're very insecure and they're threatened. And they don't know that, and you don't want to let them know that you know that. So with people like that, you can't actually say, no, you're wrong, because then they'll fight you and they'll bully you, and they're better at it than you are, and you'll leave feeling terrible. So there are strategies that you can learn, specific ways to react, for example, that are a win-win for everybody. You want to get someone to say yes to something, don't give them a yes or no question. Give them two options, both of which are fine with you. And emphasize the one you want slightly less, and they'll choose the one you really want, just to win. So if you understand they have to win, set up a win. It sounds complicated, but over time it gets easy and instinctive. And what you're really doing is managing their behavior. They're speaking French, you're speaking Greek. They're not going to learn French. I mean, they're not going to learn Greek. So you have to learn just enough French to get them to talk to you.
Do you see some people that are willing to change?
Oh, many. I've done executive coaching for many years. Really star performers make tons of money for their companies, really abusers, the star performer who treats people badly is territorial, the bullies. And when they're about to crash and burn and they're sent for coaching and they know something's wrong, I want to teach them to be a bigger, better, smarter king. And that they can hear. You're doing something wrong, they can't hear. And those people are very motivated to win bigger and better. I just teach them to win smarter. And what they end up learning without realizing it is human relationship skills.
Okay, I have transformed myself through some really good mentors in the last couple of years that I'm totally different than I was a year ago. I'm totally different than I was 2 years ago. I have learned from experience, and I ultimately look at my days as being a professional wrestler. And even though I was on stage in a way that I was the star, I was the top dog independence, I was the main event. I probably treated a lot of people below card not very nice. And this was when I was really young. And I ultimately, as a teacher, were controlling as heck. When I was a teacher after my professional wrestling career, teachers have egos. Teachers really don't want to listen to someone else's opinion. So I've had to really transform myself in business to understand, oh my gosh, that's not the person I want to be. And I learned from those things. And so it's interesting if you're dealing with somebody like I used to be, or at times still am built into, to approach things differently. And I love what you're saying.
Again, there's a spectrum. Those characteristics that you're describing that you had in those years are not necessarily bad. They're just too extreme and they're too out of balance. Those are the characteristics that make you a good leader, that make you a good host of a show to lead your guests. They're the same characteristics. You've just brought them back into a proper balance, which allows you to relate to the person that you're with. So
bring your ego to zero, as I've been told by a mentor of mine the last year. Bring my ego to zero. And it's because I was not taught that growing up. I chose specific things, and I really cringe when I interview celebrities that have that ego versus the ones that have an ego to zero. And there are certain people, I won't say who they are, but you would be really surprised at what celebrities don't, that are exactly not the egomaniac, that are so humble, versus ones that you don't even want to talk to. And there's only a few, because once do you believe what's keeping people from real success is their difficulty with other people? Once they can be able to work with people better and learn.
Really key. It can be really key. And the thing is, if you're saying bring your ego to zero, I'm going to reinterpret that. This is my interpretation. What that means is just not I, me, mine, I'm the best, everything for me, but what's best for us, what's best for the community, what's best in the relationship. And then ego is balanced. We all have some ego, we have some sense of self. We can't eradicate ourselves, but are we using ourselves for the benefit of our society, our culture, our relationships, our dealings with other people? Are we trying to make life better? Or are we just about, I gotta feel great? That's a significant difference.
And that's the only child syndrome I have. That's the other thing. There's definite only, but at 49 years old, going on 50, I'm finally figuring out things. I guess
better now than never.
yeah, exactly. Perfect timing. So what people, I like when you said dealing with difficult people, and I can go a little bit longer because this is a great topic. And this is, like, as I said, speaking. Now let's put myself, not me, that I'm the difficult person back in the day, because ultimately when you are treated with royalty at times because of wrestling, because of specifically being on stage as the star, and figure all those things out. Well, now we're dealing with other difficult people. You talked about difficult people that just, you know what, they always are right. And I think it's only child syndrome is definitely already right. What about ones that are difficult people that you kind of want to only spend a little time with? The ones that you have a difficulty that you can form and work on things to have a win-win. What if they're even more difficult?
Right. There are some people on the more extreme end of the spectrum that you need to get out of your life if possible. And if they're a family member, you really need to look and deal, or a boss, you want to try and get a different job. There's a certain toxic element to the extreme bullying, narcissistic, difficult behavior that you're not going to be able to manipulate and change. And if you are consistently left feeling completely demoralized, infuriated, powerless, upset, and nothing you do of learning the right strategies and nothing works, then that's a person that you need to minimize in your life or eliminate from your life if possible, and bless them into their almost perfect good and get away from them, because you're not going to be able to change them and you're the one that's going to suffer. So again, it's a spectrum. It's a range of how much can they respond to the strategies. And the thing that you need to know is, once you learn their emotional playbook, is what I like to call it. Once you learn that and you learn how to respond to get a reaction that will be a better reaction from them, if they start to respond, there's a lot of hope. And you'd be surprised how many people will respond. There's a smaller group that really won't. And we see them in politics. We see them in a lot of our celebrities. We see them all over our media, the ones who really won't change. And they live different lives. And you don't want to be around them very much.
And certain bosses that we've dealt with,
absolutely.
We're not willing to say they're wrong, not willing to treat the person with respect, dignity, and that they're the same. It was a great point you made about how I've had to transform myself as an interviewer from the days that, okay, I'm on stage as a pro wrestler and they're just the fans, to now a relationship with my guests to a level that is improving every day, because I'm learning every day. And you have to look at the inside, look at yourself inside and say, do you really want to be that person? And
there's another distinction. When you're a wrestler in front of an audience, it's partly a performance. And when you're interviewing guests and being with people, the requirement of your authenticity as a real human being goes way up. So there's also a different requirement for you as a person in relating to your audience or your different audience. So
Right. And I think that's what's hard for celebrities,
way.
athletes, everyone that's been treated in some way as royalty in certain times
Yeah.
to really change who they are. I mean, I deal with celebrities, and some of them are like that I've had as clients, and the most difficult clients ever when I've had celebrities, that they want everything now. They don't understand specifically there is another person. One of the advice I was given with people that I on my team, that I have to not treat them as an employee. And I did not understand that. And it's like, because we are taught this is how you treat people lower you in the totem pole. This is how you're supposed to. And that's old school. And what you're saying is relationships won't work out. Things will not work out till you change who you are. So I guess in this conversation, we did not think we'd take it in this path, but it's very, very important dealing with. What about the difficult people to even level? You brought up politicians, celebrities. You're cracking me up because that was the role model what I wanted to be at times. Oh boy, let's go even further down that the ones that are even to the level, not just egotistical, but dishonest, aren't really that are cheating, lying. You want to be away from them completely.
Oh, totally. And those are the ones where you're going into diagnostic categories, the old-fashioned ones like sociopath, psychopath, the ones who don't have a moral conscience. Some people don't actually know right from wrong, so they think they can do anything. They're the dangerous ones. Those used to be called the sociopaths, and what used to be called, they've had new terms now, what used to be called psychopaths are the ones who know right from wrong and don't care and go ahead and do it anyway. And that's an important distinction to understand the mindset of how somebody can do something so heinous and so terrible. I used to talk about that on Nancy Grace's show. I was on with her for years, about the differences in the mentality about why people do these horrible, heinous things.
Well, I already can tell you, wow, you definitely have blown me away, Leslie. Where can we find information on you and stuff like that? I definitely have to be back to talk about different topics down the line. This is just a wonderful therapy session in a way for me, and that's why I like my conversations, my interviews, is I want to take it in a direction that's the best for my audience and also the best for me, because if I can enjoy it, I'm sure everyone else can as well. And if they didn't, well, I got something out of it that I can take and build on later. Where can people find it?
It's my pleasure, Neil, and my message is there's hope. There really is hope. You can reach me at leslieaustin.com, LESLIEAUSTIN, leslieaustin.com. Leslie@leslieaustin.com. And you can find my Facebook group, Dr. Leslie Austin, DrLeslieAustin.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're listening and watching the Neil Haley Show. We'll be back in just a moment.